But first, today's scathing new criticism of the Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney, not by Democrats, but it's coming from a very different source, from the staunchly conservative editorial page of the Wall Street Journal. Listen to this, and I'm quoting. Mr. Romney promised Republicans he was the best man to make the case against President Obama, whom they desperately want to defeat. So far, Mr. Romney is letting them down. Campaign advisor, senior advisor, I should say, the former New Hampshire Governor John Sununu is in the Situation Room right now. He's joining us. Hey, Governor, you know, it's one thing for Democrats, for the Obama campaign to be saying tough words about Mitt Romney, but when the editorial writers of the Wall Street Journal do so, you've got a problem.
Well, I think the governor took care of that issue yesterday with his very strong statement that even though he had hoped for the position of the dissent in the court to be the position that came out, which was based on it not being a tax, that the court has spoken. The court supported President Obama's position as pleaded by the Solicitor General for President Obama, that it was a tax, that it was a not tax in its own right and a tax adjacent to the income tax. And Governor Romney says the court has spoken. It's the law of the land. It's a tax now. And I think he's moving on the issue that the Journal had some concern about. Yeah, but the Journal writes about that switch from Monday to Wednesday, from what Eric Fernstrom said on Monday to what Mitt Romney said yesterday. And he said it underlines a bigger problem for Romney right now, that his staff is simply not up to it. They need some better staff work, and you've heard the same criticism from Rupert Murdoch. You've heard it from Jack Welch. You've heard it from Bill Kristol of the Weekly Standard. And you're a pro on this side. Is the Romney campaign staff weak? No, I think it's a good staff, and I think they demonstrated that in the primaries. They not only can get a message across, but they're pretty tough when they have to respond. And they are going to have to respond. In the last day or two, President Obama and his surrogates have been all over the place trying to claim that this is not a tax, and that they want to go back to their original dishonest claim that it's not a tax. And you have them out there trying to confuse the American public. And I think the Romney campaign understands this. They're going to make sure people understand how dishonest that is. And they're going to emphasize the fact that this is a pattern of dishonesty. You have it in the ads. Governor Obama is running an ad claiming the governor outsourced jobs, and yet independent fact checkers have made it very clear that that is not true. And so I suggest to folks that when President Obama affirms that ad by saying, I'm Barack Obama and I approve this message, or when Mr. LeBolt comes on for the campaign and says this is not a tax, referring to the health care issue, or when Jay Carney comes out and says this is not a tax, or when the White House itself says it's not a tax, the first thing that ought to come to mind when you hear that dishonesty is the phrase, liar, liar, pants on fire. Here's what the editorial in the Wall Street Journal, among other things, said, referring to this confusion, the reaction coming from the Romney campaign to the Supreme Court decision. This latest mistake is of a piece with the campaign's insular staff and strategy that are slowly squandering an historic opportunity. Mr. Obama is being hurt by an economic recovery that is weakening for the third time in 3 years, but Mr. Romney hasn't been able to take advantage, and if anything, he is losing ground. Now, in the scheme of things, you know the editorial writers of the Wall Street Journal. You know the influence that this newspaper has among Republicans, the conservative base. When they say these things about the Romney campaign, about the Romney staff, how significant, in your historic assessment, is it? Look, everybody in the campaign pays attention to what their friends say, and the Wall Street Journal is a friend of free enterprise. And Mitt Romney is the free enterprise candidate in this campaign. So they're going to pay attention to what they hear from the Wall Street Journal. But I can assure my friends at the Wall Street Journal that the campaign understands where it is in terms of the pattern of the campaign, the cycle of the campaign, the focus the campaign has to take on the failure of the president's record, and the focus the campaign has to take on what is really a character defect in this presidency, a tendency to exaggerate aggressively and be slightly dishonest, if not aggressively dishonest. So what is the signal? Candidates. Give the Romney campaign now, and you got 4 months before the election, some advice on national television. What's the most important thing they need to fix
in order to get going? Because, you know, when Bill Kristol and these others are saying there's some serious problems there, that Romney is at risk right now of squandering this opportunity, the Wall Street Journal, Rupert Murdoch, all these others are saying it. What's the most important thing they need to do to fix?
I think they have to recognize that we're in a campaign mode where simple, tough, declarative sentences are required. That this is not a campaign to be won on nuance, but to be won on making sharp distinctions with the failure of the Obama administration economically, the loss of jobs, and the pain that Americans across the country are feeling. And I think you're going to see that enunciated very clearly by Governor Romney and his campaign, who, frankly, I think has a great asset because it is, in a political sense, quite ruthless in the long run.
Now you know why John Sununu was a co-host of Crossfire here on CNN for several years. Hey, Governor, thanks very much for coming back.
Thanks. Nice to see you, Wolf.
Thank you. Ann Romney slams the Obama campaign strategy ahead, why she claims the president's message is, quote, let's kill this guy. And President Obama declares his controversial health care law is here to stay. But is he going too far? We're going to talk about that and more in our strategy session.